So it's October 25th, 2019, and this is the very first episode of Film Cult Podcast starring me, Chris. So, what this is basically something I've been thinking about for months and months, and I've never formally sat down and done it till right now. I wanted to do basically a podcast of me reviewing several movies. I would watch a movie, film the segment, put them all together, and that would be about an hour or so maybe of content. I post it every single Friday, and I had the idea for everything, and I just have been sitting on it for months because there's just so much out there as far as podcasts are concerned, and then there's so much out there as far as movie reviews are concerned, and it just kind of makes you think, like, why would it matter if this was made, you know? You can have your own opinion on something, and that be that. You don't have to discuss it in a format like this and give your take on it. Especially when there's so many other, everything I watch, Red Letter Media, Ralph the Movie Maker, Your Movie Suck, like all these awesome creators who have built their own platform by making movie reviews. And I kind of needed a newer angle in order for this to work. So, it is by no means where I want it to be. I'm recording really shittily, as you can tell. I am not prepared at all, but I am tired of just sitting and waiting around and not making it, and just thinking about, oh, this movie would be really good for the review, and or this movie would be really cool too to watch. And I also have so many other like classic movies that I haven't seen, even though I feel like I've seen so much. There's a lot of films that are like just staples for, like, Citizen Kane is an example. I've never seen that movie, and I know that is like hailed as one of the best movies of all time, and I've never seen it, and I've just kind of been putting it off. It would be cool to kind of experience that for the first time and then talk about it on here. So I kind of just said fuck it. Even if 2 people watch this, it's 2 people who heard me who never would have otherwise. So yeah, basically I'm compositing movies, and what I'm trying to do that makes it different from other channels is most kind of movie review channels, they pick what's most relevant, what's out now, because obviously that's what's going to gain attention. That's what people want to know. Is it good? Is it bad? Should I see it? Should I not? So for me, I kind of just wanted to pick movies that sounded interesting to me, regardless of relevancy. It could be a movie from 1950, it could be a movie from 1972, it could be like some avant-garde movie, some black and white movie. It doesn't matter. I'm literally just going through a list and compositing. Now I have over 100 films that I can choose from, and I just want to go through each week, maybe pick 3 or 4, sometimes more, sometimes less, and make a discussion out of these movies. And maybe not even necessarily rating them on a scale or anything like that. Maybe just saying whether I'd watch them or not. But I'm not not sponsored, obviously. This is my very first. But one thing that has helped me a lot that I would like to recommend is an app called Just Watch. You can put in the streaming services that you have, exclude the ones that you don't have, and it kind of gives you a day-by-day release of what different titles are available on those services. So I have, for example, Netflix, Hulu, and Prime Video are my 3 main streaming services, and I also have the Roku, so I can have the Roku channel, but it has tons of more options. So like HBO Now, Apple TV, stuff like that, Vudu, kind of stuff like that. So without further ado, the first movie that I'm going to talk about is the 1996 film Sling Blade, written and starring Billy Bob Thornton. This is an interesting movie. I was not expecting this at all. didn't really know anything about it going into it. Kind of the best way to do it, in my opinion. Don't watch the trailer. Give everything away. Even those late 90s trailers that have the narration, that golden narration, in a world, and like that kind of deal. But Sling Blade was good. It was really good. Billy Bob Thornton is playing a mentally handicapped man who has been in jail for pretty much his whole life for the murder of his mother and another man. And you learn these events kind of quite early on. And yeah, I said mentally handicapped. They use the hard R there a lot in that movie. I guess, late 90s kind of deal here. But it's a good character film. It's you kind of really don't see Billy Bob Thornton at all in this. You see Carl, and his mannerisms and everything has changed. I remember reading here in like the trivia that I always go through with every movie that in order to make his walk more awkward and consistent, Billy Bob Thornton plays crushed glass in his shoes. Like, what the fuck? I understand character acting and Billy, but that's just absurd. But yeah, he created this whole unique facial expression that Carl has and these speech patterns, and it's definitely unique. To me, it kind of looks like French Stewart. Just kind of that like dumb. I should say dumb because he's playing a mentally handicapped person, but this just kind of silly smile or smirk on his face the whole time, and you really explore him and you explore the people of this like small town, and everyone does a fantastic job in this movie as far as acting is concerned. The child acting from Lucas Black is really good, and Dwight Yoakam, who I'm told is a country singer. That's who was told when I was watching the movie, that he's a famous country singer. He's a douchebag. He's an asshole, and he's the protagonist of the movie, so that fits really well. And he does a good job of portraying that. One of the things I found like unique about the movie was that like everybody is really kind for the most part to Carl, and everyone's kind to what's his name's character, Ritter, who plays a homosexual man in this town, this very small Midwest town as well, which you can see is kind of like another like outsider view, and they kind of have certain moments. Carl and I'm blanking on the name of Josh Ritter's character, but I will find it. Anyway, John Ritter's character, sorry, Vaughn. There we go. So Carl and Vaughn kind of bond because they are looked at in a different way from everybody else in the movie, and I kind of enjoy that scene the most because he's trying to say that, hey, we're kind of the same, and Carl's just kind of eating his lunch. He doesn't really care for like that kind of discussion. And you can kind of see what the movie's building to throughout the whole idea is that Carl's murdered 2 people. He's finally out. He's out of the sanitarium or the mental hospital, whatever you want to call it. And he is just trying to live some sort of normalcy in his life, and without any other wrongdoing. So, but you kind of, as I said before, you kind of build up to what you think is going to happen, and the fact that our protagonist, like I mentioned, is this like douchebag, and he's horrible to the kid and the wife of this family that Carl meets, and it just slowly builds and builds and builds, and he talks horribly to them and abuses them physically and emotionally. He throws a man in a wheelchair into a door at one point. I was like, damn, that is just 150% asshole right there. You don't throw disabled people into doors. He just like cartoonishly like threw them in there, and I was like, wow, that's rough. So yeah, that's Sling Blade. It's a good movie, and I would recommend seeing this. Um, what else can I talk about? As far as a new release that I've seen, I know I just said that I wasn't going to talk about new movies, but it's just this is all just fresh in my head. I'd like to, for the second podcast, to be a little more fleshed out, a little more prepared. Like I said, I just needed to get this out as number one, kind of like a getting started, what I'm doing kind of deal, um, just so I can have one under my belt and kind of go from there. Even if just a couple people watch this, even if no one watches this, and I just have a record of myself talking about these movies, that's completely fine with me. And yeah, I hope to get a better microphone. So if anyone's turned this off by now, just because I have shitty audio quality, I totally understand that. So the newest release that I've seen was Gemini Man, starring Will Smith, beside Will Smith. And I could say I saw this film just a little over a week ago, and it is completely forgettable. There is this plot is just kind of all over the place, and you can tell um, from what I've read that this film has been around. The script for this film has been around for like a decade or more, and they've been just like kind of throwing this at different people to get, and they finally got Ang Lee to create this. And I think in a technical aspect, this film works. The scenes where Will Smith's playing against a younger version, a clone basically of himself, it's really cool. It's kind of cool to see, and it's technically done really well. And they mask the animation by kind of using these darkly lit scenes, and so it kind of, even if there's imperfections, I guess that they would kind of be lately shown. But in contrast to that, the first encounter of Will Smith and his younger clone self is in daylight, and I feel like they did a pretty good job. And then at the end of the movie, there is a scene on a college campus, and it is bright. It is the middle of the day, and I gotta say, for that last bit, maybe it was rushed. I don't know. It was just like laughable. It looked like PS2 graphics, honestly, of this young Will Smith, and I don't really understand what happened at the end there. And honestly, regular non CGI Will Smith, for some reason, one scene he's talking to another guy. I don't remember any of the characters' names. That's how forgettable this is. But he's talking about how there's basically going to be a hit against his life and that he should be prepared. He's with this like older man, and they're kind of like talking this like swampy marsh area towards the beginning of the film. I don't know why I'm being so specific. You probably won't see it, and I don't blame you. But it just looked weird. It almost looked like he wasn't real, even though it was the regular current modern day Will Smith. It just looked awkward. Something about like maybe the lighting or something in there. It was just really, really off-putting. But yeah, Gemini Man. Although I really like Will Smith as an actor, I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead as the co-star or co-lead in this film as well. She was cool. Clive Owen has made some really good projects. I actually might have another one of his movies on my list for later review in specific. But I'll get back to that later, obviously. But yeah, this film is just mediocre at best, and it doesn't really wrap anything up at the end. You're not really satisfied by the conclusion of this film. And that's another thing I should probably talk about. I don't really want to go into spoilers when talking about these movies. Kind of just give a generic overview of how I felt about them. Just because I don't really care for spoiler reviews necessarily, unless it's like really important to the part of the review. I guess that would make sense to talk about like the climax of the film or something like that. But yeah, so that's Gemini Man. Like I said, don't see it. Well, you could see it. It's cool on that technical CGI level, and Ang Lee has some cool films. I was always a fan growing up of his, I want to say 2003 Hulk, that people did not like, but I actually had a special affection for that movie just because I was such a young child at that point. And those graphics, those CGI animations hold up in some sense, and then don't in others. I feel like there's some scenes where you're like, oh wow, that kind of looks good, and then there's other times where you're like, geez, it's just like a green mess. So I kind of feel like not much has changed there for Ang Lee. Kind of in the middle of having some really good technical special effects and then having some really abysmal ones as well. So that's Gemini Man. Another film that I watched a few weeks ago, so it's a little hazy, but it's a film I've been building up for, like, saving for a while, because I've heard it's such like this mind-bending, like, drama mystery kind of movie, and it'll be really good. And I just went completely blank into this. Did not look up anything. I've heard the name a lot, tossed around, and I was really hoping to see this and enjoy it, and I did not. And it is Mulholland Drive, which came out in 2001. I did not know this was a David Lynch film, and not saying anything bad about that, about David Lynch at all, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I don't watch Twin Peaks. I don't really enjoy it. I tried to get into it, and it just wasn't for me. And I guess there's probably a lot of people who feel that way. And I know there's a lot of people who are very fanatical about David Lynch and his movies. But just from the first shot of this film, it's like, if I remember correctly, it's just like people dancing, and there's just like really weird like filter on the whole thing. And paired with like this car driving down a road, and I'm just like, what is this? And then I see directed by David Lynch, and I'm like, oh, that's what this is gonna be. This is gonna be like a weird, like, kind of like acid trip almost. And it definitely was. There were some parts that shined out to me, but overall it was just really weird. I wasn't expecting this type of film when I heard Mulholland Drive. I don't know why. I was expecting something a lot not darker, but like just in a different sense in the movie. I ended up falling asleep, and that's kind of disrespectful when it comes to movie reviewing. I should watch it in full again and kind of actually give an analysis to it. But basically, Naomi Watts, she has amnesia from a car crash. She has no idea what she's doing. But she's a Hollywood hopeful, and she searches for the answers to her life basically in LA, in this kind of twisting adventure, and you have to kind of figure out what's real, what's not. And there's I can remember there's like an assassin scene at one point. That scene stood out to me as being cool. There's like kind of like this botched hitman job, and that kind of, just from what I kind of like in movies and stuff, that was like a cool kind of scene. There was just like good dialogue to it, and now that I'm thinking about it, this is this is a terrible first episode of what I'm trying to accomplish here, but I'm going through with it anyway. So that's Mulholland Drive. Would I recommend it? If you're a David Lynch fan, I guess I would recommend this film. You've probably already seen it anyway. I did not personally like it. I just felt confused for a lot of it. And yeah, that's that. Another thing that I was going to mention is, while I was seeing Gemini Man, there was a set of previews in front of me, as always, and a lot of the films that are coming out kind of has this motive to it, and I was kind of discuss kind of where movies are going. And there's kind of something that the guy next to me said kind of stuck with me, and he was like, you really can't trust anyone in these movies. And I felt like, yeah, he's kind of right. These films kind of all have these overlying themes of, like, you can't trust anyone. And the two films that I'm talking about, which are upcoming releases, are one of them is called Black and Blue, and it's kind of like this cop thriller. She witnesses the death of a young drug dealer on her body cam, and These corrupt police officers are. This is what I'm getting from the trailer. These corrupt police officers were kind of like working with this drug dealer, and they end up shooting him. And she records it on her body cam, which is obviously a yikes kind of moment. So they're kind of all after her, and all these like rogue cops and these now like gangster characters are all after this one policewoman. And then the other movie that kind of has the same like you can't trust the police and kind of deal was oh god, I can't remember the name. It's Slim and something. Slim and Queen and Slim. Yeah, that's it. Queen and Slim. So this kind of had both these films I feel like have some racial overtones to them, and it's kind of important that these movies are coming out about police brutality and police corruption, I guess. And it was interesting to see these two trailers almost back to back to see how much they just. I obviously haven't gone to the movie, and I think as far as what they're going to be, I feel like Queen and Slim would probably have the more impactful film here because it's more of two people turning a certain way in their life because of an event that happened. And it stars, Queen and Slim stars Daniel, I'm going to botch his name, Kaluuya, and Jodie Turner-Smith, who's like very new on the scene, apparently, because I believe it said introducing her. But this film looks really good, and I am looking forward to seeing it. And speaking of looking forward to see, I am trying to go view The Lighthouse, which is a new film from A24 Studios, which is a production studio I really enjoy. They came out with a lot of films. And The Lighthouse stars William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. And it's from the director of Midsommar, if I'm... No, maybe it is not. But this A24 also produced Midsommar, which is a really good movie. Ari Aster. But this film looks really interesting, and I've been following it for a long time, and it's finally come out to a nationwide release this weekend. So I hope to see that soon. I would love to do a review of that, and to have a film more recently in my head would probably create a better review and a better discussion and a better podcast. So, like I said, I apologize for how this is coming out, but I just needed to get it out. So, I'm not sure how long I am at right now. Almost 23 minutes, that's not too bad. So yeah, this is Film Cult Podcast. And thanks so much for listening if you are continuing to. And I will improve this, hopefully, and create a better podcast out of it. And like I said, I have so many movies that I want to go over. I have a list on Just Watch, that app that I recommended. You could save a whole list, a watch list, and I have. And so I have a ton of movies I would like to go over and watch. And some of these may be obvious to the viewer, the obvious popular movies. Some of them maybe not. I could just read a few of them off to you, but the Sisters Brothers came out in 2018. Primer 2004. Platoon 1986. Invasion of the Body Snatchers 78. King Comedy is one I'd like to discuss, definitely about that and its parallels to Joker. Film I've also seen recently. Like I said, I wanted to kind of stay away from the relevant films, like the newer releases, because everyone has a review of Joker out there, and everyone's calling it King of Comedy and Taxi Driver-esque, and it kind of gets to a point where it's like, what else is there to say about these things, and what else can I say? But I feel like I have some good points about what makes Joker a good movie. Attack 1956, Patterson 2016, Freaks 2019. I just watched this movie, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I could give a quick review of that, why not? I like the setting of this film. It takes place in 1968, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a modern horror piece. But the fact that they made it a period piece was cool. I really like the atmosphere of it, and I feel like this movie had a bunch of actors in it that were just like, I know you from somewhere. And I was able to pin one of them without looking it up. I'm going to look up the rest right now, but the high school bully who wears the Letterman jacket, who ends up becoming, here I am, I'm spoiling this film, but who ends up becoming the Scarecrow, which is like the first story of this book that they end up finding. I'm really making a jumbled mess out of this. But I was like, I've seen this guy before, and I kept thinking of like, where have I seen this dude before? They're all young actors, young actresses. I'm gonna read them now. But I was like, who is this Austin Abrams character? And I remember as like almost halfway through the movie, it's like, oh, I've seen him in that movie Paper Towns. I really liked I liked that movie, and I liked his character in there a lot. But it was cool to see because he's kind of like a comic relief in Paper Towns. Very funny, very silly, and then in this he's like a bully. A very mean character, and that was kind of cool to see that. But so I recognized him for Paper Towns. Gabriel Rush is also in this film. I kept looking at him like, what have I seen him in? And there we go. He's been in a lot of Wes Anderson films. I do like Wes Anderson, so he's in Moonrise Kingdom, obviously. Just connecting with me now. Grand Budapest Hotel, films like that, so that's where I recognize him. And then the third guy, obviously I recognize Dean Norris as the father right away from Breaking Bad, but Austin Zajor, where is he from? Because I kept watching. Oh, kidding! Okay, so there's that HBO show with Jim Carrey. He's kind of playing like a Mr. Rogers-esque character. I recognize him from there. I watched that season of that show earlier this year, way earlier this year. That was a pretty good show. Other than that, I'm looking through his filmography here. I don't really recognize anything else. That must have been the only thing. But he like stood out to me. He's a pretty good actor. Pretty funny in this film. Yeah, I feel like there's got to be something else. But I'm looking through all these. He's in that new movie Countdown. Yikes. But yeah, I think I'm going to stop this at a half hour instead of trying to go for an hour. But thank you so much if you're still listening. To the one person out there, this is for you. Thank you. This has been Film Cult Podcast episode 1. Tune in for more discussion. There was even a whole segment about this I didn't go into. I was hoping to do something called design and discussion. Basically, I like doing digital illustration, kind of poster artwork, alternate artwork kind of thing. So I was thinking if I could review a movie and also make like an alternate poster for it, maybe in like a different type of style, maybe a minimalist style or just something different. That would be kind of cool. So I did have a movie picked out for that. 1997's Grosse Pointe Blank, starring John Cusack. I had a whole discussion ready for that, and while drawing this alternate poster, but I didn't end up going through with it. As you could tell, that was like more than a month ago at this point. I've kind of been jumbled my whole entire life right now. So, but hey, I was able to get one 30-minute episode of this podcast that I've been thinking about in my mind for months. So, thanks so much for listening. Hopefully I'll see you again in the next podcast. Bye, guys.